Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So, for this video right here, I'm going to talk about some stories in the news real briefly. The first story involves Donald Trump's personal attorney, Michael Cohen. The FBI raided his home, his hotel, and his offices. They seized documents and other information. And from what I understand, they actually seized his phone because what has happened is the special investigator had referred this matter to the authorities because he uncovered apparently evidence of a possible crime, of possible crimes, and these crimes include wire fraud, bank fraud, and violation of campaign finance laws. So for that reason, Michael Cohen's office was raided, and the president has expressed his outrage about this. He's saying that this is undermining democracy and blah blah blah. And now there's talk about him possibly trying to fire Mueller. He's the one that's investigating Trump for these ties to the Russians and all that kind of stuff. And he's also talking about possibly firing the deputy attorney general because Jeff Sessions recused himself from the situation. And he's also hostile towards Jeff Sessions for recusing himself from this investigation. So it's possible that he may fire all those people. And if he fires Mueller, it may create like some controversy and may create some kind of constitutional crisis, according to all these commenters, because you have a lot of Republicans who are urging the president not to fire Mueller. They're asking for the president to allow the investigation to continue because if we can recall, Donald Trump fired Comey and all that kind of stuff while he was conducting an investigation. So there's serious questions. And under the Constitution, the president is supposed to follow the law. There's a provision faithfully following the law. That's what the president is supposed to do. And according to the law, as some people have expressed, only the deputy attorney general is the one that has authority to fire the special investigator and stuff. So there's some question about that. There's some question about whether or not the president as executive can do this. So there's a lot of issues going on, man. So this is not good for Donald Trump at all. Who knows what kind of things this attorney discussed with Donald Trump. And as most people know, you have the protections of attorney-client privilege, but there are certain exceptions for that. Like if someone is helping another person commit a crime and they're using the attorney to do so, there are certain provisions that will allow for that information to be declared not confidential. So this is a very big deal. And then while this is going on, you also have the situation in Syria where they're accusing the Assad regime of using chemical weapons. So Donald Trump is talking about taking military action against Syria. And we know that this whole situation came up during the Obama administration. There was talk about him drawing a line in the sand and allowing Assad to cross that line. And, there was talk about the Obama administration actually taking military action and all that kind of stuff, but it never materialized. So there's a real possibility that Donald Trump may take military action against Syria. And this situation is very complicated because there are so many players involved in the situation in Syria. You have the Russians, you have the Israelis, you have other groups of people, the Iranians. So you have all these different interests that are waging a proxy war within Syria. And this could possibly lead to some kind of military conflict between Russia and the United States because Russia has vowed to shoot down missiles that come from outside and all this and that. This could really escalate into a larger crisis. So this is a very dangerous type of situation. It is very serious. And, I think that with Donald Trump and all the stuff going on in his administration, him being investigated for this Russia thing, that whole Stormy Daniels thing, I would not be surprised if he did not take military action. Because I wouldn't be surprised if he took military action, rather. And I wouldn't be surprised because that would allow the media to stop focusing on all these important issues involving Donald Trump and these different scandals, and people would focus primarily on the war. Just like in that movie Wag the Dog and all that kind of stuff. That's probably a likely scenario, man. And then, the thing is, that's going to jeopardize American lives, American resources. It would be a waste for the United States to get involved in that endless civil war over there. And, in terms of the Assad regime, using these chemical weapons, I don't know if they use them or not. To me, it doesn't make much sense for them to use them. Like, I think that more likely than not, it's highly probable that one of these terrorist groups use these chemical weapons to try to escalate the situation and try to get international involvement in the situation. Because from what I understand, these chemical weapons affected a relatively small group of people. And also, I mean, just at the end of the day, I mean, I know that there's treaties and stuff like that dealing with chemical weapons, but if it's okay to blow people up into smithereens, to drop bombs on people and kill massive numbers of people, to shoot people and stuff like that, how is that any different from using chemical weapons, man? If they can kill you in all these other kinds of ways, why make such an extraordinary deal about chemical weapons? So that's one thing, man. I really think that whole chemical weapons thing is staged to try to escalate this situation and try to get the United States involved. So that's one thing. And I mean, it's very, any kind of weapons are disturbing. Like any kind of death and destruction is something that obviously moves the spirit. I mean, it's something that is disturbing, deeply disturbing. But it's like, I just wonder about these chemical weapons and if it's really designed just to escalate the situation and get the United States involved. Another issue that I want to talk about is the situation in Israel. You have these nonviolent protesters in the Gaza Strip that are protesting near the border of Israel, and the Israelis have used violence against these people. They have killed several nonviolent protesters, but you haven't heard a word from any of these members of Congress. Any of these members of Congress, they haven't said anything about this. The president hasn't said anything to condemn the actions of Israel. These are nonviolent protesters demonstrating peacefully, and Israel has gunned down several of them, and the world has remained silent. These members of Congress have remained silent. And the reason why the United States has an obligation to say something is because the United States funds Israel. They give them billions of dollars in foreign aid. Yet Israel violates all these human rights constantly. And the United States remains loyal just like a dog, a lapdog. And that's a disgrace. And it's a disgrace that you don't have any politicians that have balls enough to speak out against Israel. Because most of these politicians are bought and owned and bossed by organizations like AIPAC. And it's a disgrace that we don't have any politicians with a pair of balls to stand up and speak out against these crimes against humanity. So those are my thoughts. Tell me what y'all think. Please rate, comment, and subscribe. Peace.